Oh man, this job is stressful. Thank goodness it's time for my coffee break. Dang, my coffee break is done, but you know, that quick game session and cup of coffee left me feeling refreshed, ready to take on the rest of my day. Let's get back to work. Hey there, how's it going? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. Now, today we're doing something a little different, a little calmer, a little responsible, which is weird because I am not known for that. I got a comment on a recent video that was such a good idea that I immediately stole it. So welcome to that video. Today we're talking about the best retro games to play with a cup of coffee, because sometimes you don't have a whole afternoon to disappear into a game. You don't have time to boot up a massive RPG, remember what you were doing, and then spend 20 minutes figuring out your inventory and quest log. Sometimes you just have a cup of coffee and like 10 to 20 minutes before life starts yelling at you again. Not every game works for this. Some games open up like, "Welcome back, hero. I've been waiting for you. The kingdom's in peril. Please tell me you brought the orb of Glufufadel to save us." And I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember what that is. And by the time I figure out what's going on, my coffee's cold and I'm somehow more stressed than when I started. So I came up with some rules for what makes for a good retro game coffee game. They should start fast, feel good immediately, not require remembering anything important, not require outside help like walkthroughs or spreadsheets, let you stop at any moment without anything falling apart, and ideally make you want to keep playing and drinking coffee. Now, the nice thing about retro games is most of them actually fit this perfectly. They come from a time before every game needed to be a 40-hour life commitment. They're just little chunks of fun. And just like how different types of coffee can give you different moods, different retro games hit different. Some feel like a quick black espresso that you slam before running out the door, and some feel like a half-sweet oat milk pumpkin spice macchiato with cold foam and extra drizzle that you sip in a fancy cafe while pretending that you can afford nice things. Retro games are the same. Some are for the mood of, "Quick, I need games injected into my veins." And some are for, "I just want to find out what happens next in that game I be playing." So to make sense of all that, I broke things down into a few categories, different roasts and blends of coffee break games. Starting with arcade games. If there is a perfect coffee game, it's arcade games, because arcade games don't care about your life. They don't care about taking the time to do anything. They care about one thing: starting immediately, and within seconds, you're doing something. You got top-down shooters like 1944, The Loot Master. This one is great because it's a vertical shooter, but it doesn't require you to rotate your device like a weirdo. Enemies drift in, the patterns are clear, the gameplay is tight, the stages are short and end in a satisfying boss fight. It's clean, readable chaos with lovely pixel art, graphics, and sound that leave a crisp aftertaste, like a good cup of black coffee. There are lots of unique genres that exist only in arcade games, like the first-person brawler Crossed Swords 2. This one is like Punch-Out, but in a fantasy world where you're fighting knights and monsters and skeletons. There are 3 characters to pick from, and each one feels different. There's some light progression so you can save your state and pick up where you left off, and most importantly, it feels satisfying no matter how long you have to play. Fighting games, of course, are a huge part of arcade games, and there's a million to pick from, so go with whichever you like. Lots of people like Street Fighter or King of Fighters, but the one that I'm always firing up is Garou: Mark of the Wolves. I like fighting games for quick sessions because the progression is actually in you. You don't get further in the game as you play, you get better at the game each time you play it, and you can usually squeeze in like 3 or 4 good matches into a single coffee break. You've got beat-them-ups of all shapes and sizes. I just did a video on the best retro beat-them-up games, so go watch that if you need help picking one. My personal favorite is Dungeons & Dragons Shadow over Mystara. In addition to being really fun to play and being nice to look at with nice sound, this one's also good because there is progression. So you can jump in, continue the short-ish story, and then quit as soon as you need to without feeling like you didn't get to the fun part. And if you want quick, exciting, satisfying action, the perfect genre for that is run and gun games. Lots of those to choose from. I'll have a video about the best run and gun soon, but the one that I go back to all the time is Sunset Riders. The graphics are great, the sound and music are fun, and the Western vibe makes this one feel a bit more chill than others in the genre. Something about murdering cowboys instead of robot alien zombies or whatever. It feels more coffee break to me. And we can't touch on retro games without touching on one of the main reasons that people play these kinds of games, and that's because of the nostalgia. Retro games are comfort games because they take us back to a simpler time. Not just when the games were simpler, but also us, back when our lives were simpler. What better way to unwind than taking a trip back to those days over a warm cup of coffee? I find that Game Boy games feel great for quick pick up and play sessions because they are made for that. These are the first generation of portable games, and they knew that maybe you only had a few minutes to play. So for lots of these games, they kept it simple, packed in the fun, and felt satisfying no matter how long you played. Kirby's Dream Land 2 on the Game Boy always chills me out, and I am a firm believer that it is impossible to be stressed out when you are floating around a squishy world as a fluffy pink marshmallow. Pokemon games are still going strong today, but there is something about going back to the humble roots of the series that suits coffee breaks so well. Again, because these were portable games, they are built around short play sessions. They don't require a ton of your time or brain power, but you still get that satisfying addictive sense of progression that makes you want to take an extra coffee break here and there to level up your Pikachu. There are tons of Mario games, so, pick whichever you want to feel the vibes of, but when I want to chill out with a truly classic feeling Mario game, Mario 3 is the one that I end up going to. It's just old enough that it brings me back to little me, sitting on the carpet playing on our tiny little TV during a hot, rainy summer day in our family's trailer that we lived in for a while when we were between houses. A little oasis in a world that felt too big and complicated. Mario 3 still does the same thing to me now as it did back then. An escape from the stress and pressure into a small, simple world where all I have to do is keep moving forward, finish the level, and everything somehow just feels okay again. Puzzle games are a classic staple of chill gaming. Sometimes you don't want to turn your brain off. Sometimes you need a brain on break. Like if you have a boring job that sucks your will to live, a tricky, engaging, noodle-scratching puzzle game can remind you what it feels like to be a human with a brain. Ever since the release of the original Game Boy itself, Tetris has been keeping busy people company on their coffee breaks, and it is still going strong today. Pick whichever version you like, there's lots to choose from, but the Game Boy original is the only one that I ever play. There are few shortcuts to flipping my chill switch than hearing that Tetris theme music and sound effects coming out of a tiny speaker on a Game Boy shaped doodad in my hands. Puzzle Bobble, also known as Bust-A-Move, is another game I'm always going back to. Like Tetris, it's a good mix of deduction and reasoning, fast thinking, and also technical skills. Firing out those little bubbles and getting it to land exactly where you want it and seeing the cascade of falling bubbles is so freaking satisfying. The graphics are fun and colorful, the sound effects are bright and cheerful. It's satisfying on so many levels. Just like how back in the day, people would do the crossword or word search on their coffee breaks, word games are still a super satisfying way to spend your time when you need something to distract you for a few minutes. And one of my personal favorites that has literally sucked hours from my life is Bookworm on the GBA. This one you have to chain together words from a grid of letters, and you get more points for having longer words. And there is no time pressure, take as long as you want to plan out the perfect combo, but there is pressure in being efficient because as you clear words, bad letters get spawned, and you have to try to make words with them before they hit the bottom. If you haven't played this one yet, maybe don't, because it'll make you want to take way too many coffee breaks, and you'll get fired, and your family will starve. Another type of game that is perfect for quick sessions is sports games. Lots of people love sports. I don't care about sports stuff at all, including hockey, which, yes, does make me a bad Canadian. But sports games are definitely something I do care about. I'm surprised that I like baseball games as much as I do, considering that baseball is probably my least favorite sport. I don't like playing it, I don't like watching it, but somehow baseball games are the perfect mix of simple timing-based action, simple decisions, and clever player management. Baseball Stars 2 on the Neo Geo is fun, flashy, tight baseball action. It's low stress, easy as heck to learn, quick to pick up and play, and fun for short or long sessions. Bowling games don't get a lot of love, but lots of them are actually pretty good. We haven't done any Game Boy Color games yet, so let's use this as a chance to highlight 10-point bowling. It's quick to pick up with simple timing and angle controls that feel more like solving a little puzzle than simulating real bowling. Matches move fast, making it perfect to jump in, roll some balls, and hop out just in time for your last sip of coffee. Racing games are great for coffee breaks because races themselves are just about as long as it takes to drink a cup of joe. There are so many good racing games, but I wanted to highlight V-Rally 3 on the GBA. This game is so impressive. It looks closer to a PS1 game than a GBA game. So it's impressive for that reason alone, but it's also much more than a tech demo. It is a legit rally racing game with super tight, responsive controls, smooth gameplay with realistic physics, and because it's on the GBA, it feels more bite-sized than some of the big boy home console racing games. There are lots of good racing games in the GBA. I probably should do a whole video on them, but this is one of my favorites. You gotta try this game. It's so good. Just like how you might get bored of having the same kind of coffee drink every single day, and then maybe you want something different today, sometimes a coffee break needs to have a different vibe, something new and fresh, something weird to delight you and make your world feel more whimsical and less whatever this is. If you want the purest form of quick game with coffee, it is hard to beat WarioWare. It is nothing but rapid-fire micro games that last a few seconds each, so you can jump in instantly, laugh at something stupid, and jump right back out without missing a sip. There's a few flavors of WarioWare, but the original WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Games on the GBA is the most playable on a handheld without motion or touch control gimmicks. It's chaotic, it's dumb in the best way, and you'll get a bonus perk of having your nosy coworkers very confused about what you're doing over there in the corner of the coffee break room, giggling like a dork. The Game & Watch Gallery games are great for quick little game sessions with a slightly weird vibe. It's basically a bunch of tiny, super simple, old retro LCD games that you can jump into instantly, play for a minute or two, and bounce out without a care in the world. The classic retro versions are perfect for that clean, no-thinking vibe, and the modern versions add just enough modern touches to keep your brain engaged without demanding much from you. It's the kind of game where you sit down for a round and then suddenly you've played 5. Pinball games are already kinda perfect for coffee breaks, but few get the novelty as right as Battle Pinball on the Super Nintendo. This is a Japan-only release, but you don't need to understand Japanese to play it. This game is so fun and weird. It's fast, chaotic, and goofy, where you don't really know what's going on, but you're having a great time anyways. You can jump in, smack the ball around for a few minutes, maybe beat a boss if you're feeling spicy, and then just bounce out when you're done, like it was all part of the plan. And my final category of coffee break games is actually one that breaks my own rules a little bit, because these games are big experiences, but through the magic of emulation, we can jump in and out on a moment's notice. With save states and quick suspend and resume, you can turn bigger games into bite-sized pick up and play games, as long as the games themselves aren't too complicated and involved. That's the caveat. For example, any Legend of Zelda game is going to be a big and involved experience, but you can enjoy it in bite-sized chunks if you can jump in, pick up where you left off, and jump out without having to worry that you lost your progress. There are so many good Legend of Zelda games for this. Pick whichever you like, but I think a fresh playthrough of A Link to the Past is what lots of us need in our lives right now. This was the Zelda that lots of us grew up on. A huge, sprawling SNES adventure game with a massive world to explore, great graphics, tight gameplay, and an amazing story to pull you through and want to see what happens next. Strategy games are a genre that is tricky because it's sort of like coming back to a half-finished game of chess. You can't remember what strategy you were working on. But Advance Wars 2 is just complex enough that you can plan ahead and work towards a goal, but simple enough that you can come back to a map, have no idea what you were trying to do, and just start moving your armies and capturing cities, and suddenly after only a minute or two, you got a whole new strategy that you're working towards. Great story in this game too, if you play the single-player campaign, and it's no problem at all to experience it in bite-sized chunks. And finally, while RPGs can be tricky, some RPGs are simple enough, fun enough, and special enough to make them pick up and playable. Chrono Trigger is a masterpiece for so many reasons, but one of the best parts about it is how, unlike many games from this era, it respects the player's time. You are not expected to go on huge, long, multi-play session grind fests. You're not expected to manage an inventory with 40 pages of random junk. It's a story where you always know where to go and what to do, with nothing between you and your destination but a world to explore, bad guys to fight, stories to see, and cozy little moments to enjoy, while you sip your coffee and feel your feelings in that special way that only retro games can give you. At the end of the day, these are all just games that respect your time. That's all you need when you have just 10 to 20 minutes to spare between bouts of adulting. Quality time with a game to wash away the dust of everyday life. Because when you do this instead of scrolling social media or binge watching dorks on YouTube, those little moments, these little game breaks, they start to matter more than you might expect. And somehow, between the coffee sips and the crunchy retro pixels, you remember what it feels like to just let it all go and enjoy a game, if only for as long as it takes to drink a cup of coffee. You know? Yeah, you do.